The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for thousands of years, hundreds of planets, thousands of species, all under the Empire's control. No one had ever stood against them and won. Their warships were unmatched, their soldiers unstoppable, and their technology far beyond anything other species could imagine. Then, one day, a message arrived. It was not a request, it was a warning. This is a message from Earth. Stay away from our planet. Any attempt to enter our territory will be seen as an act of war. You have been warned. The message played on every Imperial command ship, every admiral, every general, and even the Emperor himself heard it. At first, there was silence. Then, laughter. Earth, a minor planet on the edge of the galaxy. A world so unimportant that most of the Empire had never even heard of it. Who did these humans think they were? Admiral Velos, one of the most respected military leaders of the Empire, smirked as he watched the message again. He sat in his command chair aboard the Vindicator, the largest battleship in the fleet. Around him, his officers shook their heads in amusement. A primitive race threatens the Empire. One of them said, "They must be mad." "They are fools," Velos replied. "They do not understand who they are dealing with." A young officer stepped forward. "Should we inform the Emperor?" Velos waved his hand. "There is no need. This is nothing. We will send a scout fleet to this Earth. They will see our ships, and they will understand their mistake." Across the Empire, the warning was ignored. The scout fleet moves. 3 Imperial warships, each larger than anything Earth had ever built, left for the Sol system. The journey took only a few days. As they neared the outer edge of the system, their sensors picked up a small planet, blue and green, with a single gray moon. "This is Earth." Captain Drex, commander of the scout fleet, laughed. "It looks weak." His second-in-command, Lieutenant Varric, nodded. "No planetary defenses detected. No space stations. Nothing." Drex shook his head. "This will be easy. Open a channel. Let us tell these humans who they are dealing with." A moment later, the communication link was active. Drex cleared his throat. "This is Captain Drex of the Galactic Empire. We have received your message. You will surrender your planet immediately. Resistance is useless." For a few seconds, there was silence. Then a voice replied. A human voice. "This is Earth. We gave you a warning. This is your final chance. Turn back now." Drex's eyes narrowed. "Final chance. Do you think we are afraid of you?" The human voice was calm. "No, we think you don't understand the danger you are in." Drex laughed. "Enough of this. Move forward. Let's show them why no one defies the Empire." The ships moved toward Earth. Then something strange happened. The trap is set. Alarms blared. Screens flickered. The ships shuddered. "Sir," Varric shouted, "our navigation system just failed." "What?" Drex spun to his control panel. The ship wasn't responding. The engines were still active, but the ship wasn't moving the way it should. "Communications are down." Another officer yelled. "We can't send messages." Drex's heart pounded. Impossible. This has to be a mistake. Then the sensors picked up movement. Ships were approaching. Fast. Human ships. They were smaller than the Imperial warships, but something was wrong. The sensors couldn't track them properly. They appeared and disappeared like ghosts. One moment, they were far away. The next, they were right in front of them. "Open fire," Drex ordered. Nothing happened. "The weapons aren't working," Varric shouted. Then, the first human ship attacked. A single precise shot. The Imperial warship's shields collapsed instantly. "Sir, our shields are down." Drex's stomach twisted. "How?" Another shot. Then another. The warships had the most powerful armor in the Empire, but it didn't matter. The human weapons cut through them like paper. One of the Imperial ships exploded. The second one was torn apart moments later. Drex watched in horror as the last ship, the one he commanded, was surrounded. A final message came through. "We warned you." Then everything went dark. The message reaches the Empire. Days later, the Empire received a report. The scout fleet was gone. No survivors. No wreckage found. Admiral Velos read the report in silence. Around him, his officers looked nervous. For the first time in his career, he felt something he had never felt before. Doubt. Could it be possible? Could humans be more dangerous than they had imagined? He clenched his fists. No, it was just a mistake. A trick. He turned to his officers. "Send a battle group. Let's see if Earth can stand against real Imperial power." The order was given. The fleet moved. But they did not know. They were already too late. Earth was ready. And the warning still stood. Earth is OFF limits. The Galactic Empire did not take defeat lightly. When the scout fleet vanished without a trace, the news spread quickly among the high-ranking officials. Some thought it was a system malfunction. Others believed it was a freak accident. But Admiral Velos knew better. Something had destroyed those ships. And the only possible enemy was Earth. "We will not allow this insult to stand," Velos said, his voice firm as he stood before the Emperor. "The humans believe they are untouchable. It is time we remind them who rules the galaxy." The Emperor, a wise but ruthless leader, nodded slowly. "Take a battle group. Crush this planet. Show them the power of the Empire." Velos saluted. "It will be done." The Empire's might approaches. Within hours, a fleet of 20 warships set course for Earth. These were not scout ships. These were fully armed destroyers, each capable of wiping out entire cities. As the fleet traveled through hyperspace, the officers gathered in the command room of the Vindicator, Velos's flagship. A massive holographic map of Earth floated above the table. "This planet has no known space defenses," one officer reported. "No planetary shields. No war fleets. They are completely exposed." "Then this will be an easy victory," another officer said with a smirk. Velos did not smile. "Our scout fleet was destroyed. That means these humans are hiding something. We will not underestimate them again." "But, sir," Velos raised a hand, "no more arrogance. We will proceed with caution. First, we establish control of their orbit. Then we land our troops and take over their world." The officers nodded. The plan was simple. No species had ever resisted the Empire and survived. The humans would be no different. Or so they thought. Arrival at Earth. The fleet emerged at the edge of the solar system. Earth was still far, but their sensors locked onto the planet. Everything seemed normal. "Scan for any enemy ships," Velos ordered. The crew worked quickly. "No significant fleet detected," an officer reported. "Only a few satellites and small civilian crafts." Velos exhaled. "Then we move forward." The fleet advanced, passing the orbit of Mars. Still, there was no resistance. No signs of a hidden fleet. No warning messages. The silence was unsettling. Then the alarms blared. "Sir, something is happening." Velos turned to the main screen. The stars outside the window blurred. For a second, it looked like the whole universe was bending. And then, darkness. Every screen in the command center went black. Every control panel shut down. The lights flickered, then died. "What is happening?" Velos shouted. "Unknown system failure." An officer cried. "We have lost control of the ship." "Sir," another voice called out, "all ships in the fleet are experiencing the same issue." Velos's heart pounded. Impossible. Then, a new sound filled the air. A voice. Calm. Steady. Human. "We warned you. The trap closes." The screens flickered back on. The crew gasped at what they saw. Human warships surrounded them. Not hundreds. Not even dozens. Just a handful of sleek, black ships, barely visible against the darkness of space. But their weapons were already locked onto the Imperial fleet. We never detected them, an officer whispered. Velos clenched his fists. Hail them. The communication link connected. A single human appeared on the screen. His face was calm, his expression unreadable. This is Admiral Velos of the Galactic Empire, Velos said, forcing his voice to remain strong. You are outnumbered. Surrender now, and we may spare your planet. The human did not respond immediately. Then he spoke in a quiet voice. You still don't understand, do you? Velos frowned. Understand what? The human's eyes darkened. You were never in control. Suddenly, the Imperial warships shook violently. Sparks flew from control panels. Weapons systems crashed. Shields collapsed. Then, the human ships opened fire. The fall of the fleet. The first blast struck the Vindicator directly in the engines. The ship trembled as power levels dropped. Across the fleet, the same thing happened. One by one, the Imperial ships were disabled. Not destroyed. Disabled. Velos stared at the screen, unable to believe what he was seeing. The humans could have wiped them out in seconds, yet they chose to disable their ships instead. Why? Why are they not finishing us? An officer whispered. The human's voice returned. Leave now. Return to your empire. Tell them Earth is off limits. Velos gritted his teeth. And if we refuse? The human leaned forward. Then the next fleet we destroy completely. Silence filled the command room. The officers looked at Velos, waiting for his order. He had no choice. The Galactic Empire had suffered something it had never experienced before: defeat. Admiral Velos sat in the dark command chamber of his flagship, his fists clenched. The fleet was gone. The once mighty warships of the Empire had been disabled, humiliated, and forced to retreat. By humans. No one spoke. The officers aboard the Vindicator dared not look him in the eye. They knew the truth but were too afraid to say it. The Empire had underestimated Earth. Velos took a deep breath, then stood up, opened a secure channel to the Emperor. The crew hesitated. Then the holographic display flickered to life. The Emperor's form appeared, tall, regal, and surrounded by the glow of ancient technology. His golden eyes locked onto Velos. Admiral, the Emperor said, his voice calm but heavy. I trust you bring news of your victory. Velos straightened his back. No, my Emperor. The mission did not go as expected. The room fell silent. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Explain. The Emperor's wrath. Velos forced himself to speak. The humans were prepared for us. Their technology is not as primitive as we thought. They used tactics we did not expect. They disabled our entire fleet without destroying a single ship. For a long moment, the Emperor said nothing. Then, in a voice that sent chills through the air, he asked, Are you telling me humans defeated the Empire? Velos swallowed. They outplayed us. But it was only a battle, not the war. The Emperor leaned forward. And what message did they send with this battle? Velos closed his eyes. He already knew the words by heart. The humans had spoken them before letting the fleet escape. Earth is off limits. The Emperor exhaled slowly. Interesting. He turned to his advisors, high-ranking Imperial officials, standing behind him. What do we know of this Earth? One of the advisors, a historian, cleared his throat. It is a small planet in the Sol system, a relatively young species. Their history is filled with conflict and war. They are unpredictable, aggressive, and highly adaptable. Until now, we assumed they were insignificant. The Emperor tapped his fingers together. Clearly, we were wrong. Velos remained silent, waiting for the inevitable command. He had failed, but the Empire never accepted failure. They would retaliate. Finally, the Emperor spoke. We must understand our enemy before we crush them. We need more information. His gaze darkened. Send the envoy. The envoy's mission. A week later, a single Imperial vessel entered the Sol system. Unlike the warships that had come before, this one carried no weapons. It was a diplomatic ship, painted white with the insignia of the Empire. Inside, Ambassador Relos sat calmly in his chair, watching the blue-green planet on the screen. He had been chosen for this mission for one reason. He was the best at making species surrender without a single shot fired. Transmit a message, he ordered. A soft beep signaled the transmission had begun. This is Ambassador Relos of the Galactic Empire. We come in peace. We request an audience with your leaders to discuss terms of cooperation. There was a long silence. Then a reply. This is Earth. State your purpose clearly. Relos smiled. They were listening. That was a good sign. The Empire wishes to avoid further conflict. We believe diplomacy is in both our interests. We request permission to land. Another silence. Then, you may land. But understand this. You are guests, not rulers. Obey our laws, and we will talk. Try anything, and you will regret it. Relos chuckled. Understood. As the ship descended toward Earth, he thought to himself, humans are confident. Good. That will make their defeat even more satisfying. A dangerous meeting. The Imperial shuttle touched down in a secure location outside a human city. A team of armed human soldiers stood waiting. Their weapons were unlike anything the Empire had seen before. Small, compact, but somehow threatening. Relos stepped out, keeping his hands visible. I am honored to be here, he said smoothly. I look forward to our discussions. A tall human stepped forward. His face was unreadable. His voice calm. Follow us. Relos smiled. So predictable. As they walked toward a large building, he noticed something strange. There were no signs of fear. These humans did not act like a species meeting a superior power. They acted like equals. That was their first mistake. The hidden power of Earth. Inside the meeting room, Relos sat across from a group of human leaders. Their faces were serious, their words sharp. They spoke of peace, but their eyes held strength. Relos was patient. He knew how to manipulate. He spoke of unity and progress. He told them the Empire could bring technology, resources, and protection. But the humans did not seem impressed. Then one of them, an older man with gray hair, leaned forward. Tell me something, Ambassador. What happened to your fleet? Relos hesitated. There was an unfortunate misunderstanding. The man smiled. No, your fleet was defeated. Completely. Relos forced a chuckle. A temporary setback. The human's smile widened. And what will happen when the Empire sends more? Relos's eyes narrowed. We will win. The human's expression did not change. No, you won't. Silence. Then, a screen lit up behind the humans. It showed something terrifying. A full map of the Empire. Every fleet location. Every military base. Every weak point. Relos's blood ran cold. How? The gray-haired man leaned back. Your Empire thinks it's watching us. His smile faded. You don't realize. We've been watching you. Relos gripped the table. This was wrong. Humans were supposed to be weak. Primitive. How do they know so much? He suddenly understood. The humans weren't afraid of the Empire. The Empire should be afraid of them. Ambassador Relos sat frozen, staring at the screen. The humans had just revealed something impossible. A full map of the Galactic Empire's military locations. Every fleet, every supply route, every weak point. His mind raced. How? The Empire had spent centuries expanding, conquering, and crushing resistance. No species had ever come close to gathering this much intelligence about them. And yet, humans had done it. The gray-haired human leader, the one who had spoken before, folded his hands on the table. You look surprised, Ambassador. Relos forced himself to remain calm. He had dealt with tricky negotiations before. "This is impressive," he admitted, carefully choosing his words. "But this information does not change reality. The Empire is vast. Your people cannot possibly challenge us." The human leader tilted his head slightly. "Are you sure about that?" "A warning, not a threat." Relos exhaled slowly. "I will be honest. The Empire does not take defiance lightly. You may have won a battle, but you cannot win a war. The Emperor will send more fleets, and this time, we will not hold back." The human's eyes remained cold. "That would be a mistake." Relos smirked. "You are overconfident." The human leaned forward. "No, we are prepared." A new image appeared on the screen, one that made Relos's heart pound. It was an Imperial shipyard, one of the most secure locations in the Empire. Burning. "This was your supply station in the Sarnis sector," the human said. "It was destroyed 3 days ago." Relos felt his breath catch. Impossible. The human ignored him and continued. "We did not send a fleet. We did not fire a single weapon." His voice lowered. "We only sent a message to the right people." Relos's mind reeled. He had assumed humans had no allies. But now he saw the truth. The Empire had made enemies across the galaxy, enslaved worlds, conquered species, broken civilizations. And somehow, humans had reached them. The silent rebellion. The human leader's voice was calm. "For centuries, the Empire has ruled through fear. Planets obey because they think resistance is useless." He gestured toward the burning shipyard. "We proved otherwise." Relos clenched his jaw. "You are making a dangerous mistake." The human's expression hardened. "No, we are correcting one." The other human leaders remained silent, watching. Relos could feel it now, the absolute certainty in their eyes. They were not bluffing. Somehow, this young, unknown species had ignited a rebellion across the Empire. This was far worse than just a military threat. If planets started believing the Empire could be defeated, it could collapse from within. The Emperor must know. Relos knew he had failed his mission. He had come to Earth to manipulate them, to bring them under Imperial control. Instead, they had manipulated him. He stood up. "I must return to my Emperor. He will want to hear of this situation." The gray-haired leader nodded. "You should go." Relos hesitated. "Do you really believe you can survive what comes next?" The human gave a small smile. "We don't need to survive, Ambassador. We just need to make sure the Empire doesn't." A chill ran down Relos's spine. Without another word, he turned and left the room. Earth lets him go. The humans allowed Relos and his guards to return to their ship unharmed. As the Imperial vessel lifted off, Relos watched the blue planet shrink below him. They had let him leave on purpose. Not out of mercy, not out of fear, but because they wanted the Empire to hear their message. The moment his ship entered hyperspace, Relos sent an urgent transmission. "The humans are far more dangerous than we believed. The rebellion has begun. We must act immediately. The Empire prepares its response." Deep within the Galactic Empire, the Emperor listened to Relos' report in silence. His golden eyes remained unreadable. When the transmission ended, he stood up. "Summon the Grand Council," he ordered. "We will not allow a single planet to threaten us." The advisors bowed and left the chamber. The Emperor walked toward a massive window overlooking the Imperial capital. He had ruled for centuries. He had crushed countless uprisings. He had built the greatest empire in history. Yet now, for the first time in his long life, he felt something unfamiliar. Not anger, not pride, something far worse. Doubt. The Imperial Palace was silent. The Grand Council sat in a dark chamber, their faces lit only by the golden glow of the Emperor's throne. The tension in the air was thick. Ambassador Relos stood in the center, his posture stiff. He had just finished delivering his report on Earth. The words still echoed in his mind. The rebellion has begun. The council members whispered among themselves. Shock, disbelief, anger. Then the Emperor raised his hand. The room fell silent. How dangerous are these humans? He asked. Relos hesitated. They are, unlike any species we have encountered. They do not fear us. They have technology beyond what we assumed, and most importantly, he swallowed. They have inspired others to resist. The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. So they are not just a problem. They are a disease. A council member, General Orin, slammed his fist on the table. Then we must crush them before this rebellion spreads. The Emperor remained calm. No, not yet. The council looked at him in confusion. They have already proven they can outthink us. The Emperor continued. If we send another fleet, they will be ready. We cannot make the same mistake twice. Then what do we do? General Orin asked. The Emperor leaned forward. We do not attack Earth directly. We make an example of their allies. The trap is set. The Imperial fleet moved swiftly. Their target was a small planet called Veldrosfor. It was one of the first worlds to show signs of rebellion after the humans' intervention. The Empire had ruled over it for generations, forcing its people to work in the mines, supplying resources for Imperial warships. Now, the people had started whispering of freedom, of hope. The Empire would end that hope. As the fleet arrived in orbit, Admiral Velos gave the order. Send a message to the surface. No negotiations. They will surrender or they will burn. The Veldrosi leaders refused. And so, the bombardment began, a desperate call for help. On the surface, flames consumed cities. The sky turned red as energy blasts rained down. The people of Veldrosfor had no way to fight back, but they had one chance left. The leader of the resistance, a woman named Sarah, sent a desperate message, not to the Empire, not to her own people, but to Earth. They are wiping us out. If you meant what you said, if Earth truly stands against the Empire, then help us. Please. The message repeated over and over, sent into the black void of space. She did not know if anyone would hear it, but she had no other choice. Earth answers. Aboard a hidden station orbiting Mars, human military leaders listened to Sarah's message. The council debated. This is what we warned the Empire about, one officer said. Earth is off limits, but they are testing us by attacking our allies. We have the firepower, another said. But if we step in, this war truly begins. Silence filled the room. Then, General David Cross stood up. His voice was calm. The war has already begun, he said. The only question is whether we fight now, or wait until they come for us. Nobody argued. The battle begins. 3 human ships entered the Veldrosfor system. They were smaller than Imperial warships, sleeker and darker, built for speed, for stealth, for precision. Admiral Velos laughed when he saw them. Only 3 ships. They insult us. He ordered his fleet to engage. The Imperial warships moved in, weapons ready. Then, something unexpected happened. The human ships disappeared from their sensors. Velos blinked. What? Where did they? Before he could finish, explosions erupted across his fleet. Silent, precise strikes. The humans were already among them. They moved like ghosts, slipping past defenses, disabling engines, crippling weapons. The Imperial fleet, so confident moments ago, fell into chaos. The humans were not here to fight a war. They were here to send a message. Victory. And a warning. Within an hour, it was over. The Imperial fleet was in ruins. Some ships remained intact, but they were helpless, their systems fried by human technology. A single transmission was sent to every Imperial ship. A deep, calm voice spoke. We warned you. Earth is off limits. Our allies are off limits. Do not test us again. Then the human ships vanished into the void. On the surface of Veldrosfor, the people looked up at the sky. The Empire's ships were still there, but they were powerless. And for the first time in their history, they felt hope. The news spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, whispers turned into shouts. Planets that had suffered under Imperial rule for centuries now had proof. The Empire could be defeated. A single human strike force had crippled an entire fleet. They hadn't used brute force. They hadn't needed massive armies. They had used strategy, precision, and technology that no one had ever seen before. And worst of all for the Empire, they had done it without losing a single ship. The Emperor's rage. In the Imperial Palace, the atmosphere was tense. The Emperor sat on his throne, silent and still. Around him, the Grand Council stood, waiting for him to speak. Ambassador Relos and Admiral Valus kneeled before him, their heads bowed. Finally, the Emperor spoke. How? His voice was quiet, but the weight behind it was terrifying. Admiral Valus, once proud and confident, was now pale and shaking. The humans, they have technology beyond our understanding. Their ships moved like shadows. They attacked before we even saw them. He hesitated. I underestimated them. The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. Yes, you did. The room was silent. The air felt heavy. Then, the Emperor stood. Enough games, he said. If they want a war, we will give them one. Earth's hidden strength. Meanwhile, on Earth, preparations had already begun. General David Cross stood in a secure underground base, watching reports from all over the galaxy. Rebel leaders from dozens of planets had sent messages, asking for guidance, for support, for weapons. Earth had never wanted to rule the galaxy. But now, the galaxy needed them. A young officer approached. Sir, the Empire is moving. We intercepted their communications. They are preparing for an all-out assault. Cross nodded. He had expected this. How long? He asked. 2 weeks at most, the officer replied. Cross turned to his team. Then we have 2 weeks to make sure the Empire never recovers. A plan unlike any other. The human leaders gathered in a war room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Maps of the galaxy filled the walls. Glowing red dots marked Imperial strongholds. Blue dots marked rebel forces. A scientist stepped forward. We don't just need to defeat their fleet, she said. We need to break their entire system. We need to make sure the Empire cannot recover. Cross listened carefully. What do you suggest? She tapped on a screen, and a new image appeared. A massive structure in deep space. The Imperial Data Core, she said. It is the heart of their entire empire. Every battle plan, every supply route, every security code is stored there. If we destroy it, another officer said, we don't just win a battle. We cripple them. Their fleets will be lost. Their armies will be blind. Their leaders will panic. Cross nodded slowly. Then that's our target. The Empire's fatal weakness. Back in the Imperial Palace, the Emperor's fury had turned into cold calculation. He stared at the holographic display of Earth, his mind racing. They think they are untouchable, he said. That is their weakness. He turned to Relos. How do they know about our shipyard? How do they know where to strike? Relos hesitated. I do not know. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Yes, you do. Relos swallowed. The only explanation is that someone inside the Empire is helping them. Silence filled the room. Then the Emperor spoke again. Find the traitors, he ordered. Destroy them. And then, his voice darkened. We burn Earth to the ground. The final countdown. In the darkness of space, a fleet of human warships moved in silence. They did not fly in formation. They did not follow normal routes. They slipped through the Empire's defenses like shadows, unseen and unstoppable. Their target, the Imperial Data Core. On Earth, Cross stood before his soldiers. This mission is different, he said. We are not fighting to win a battle. We are fighting to end this war before it truly begins. The soldiers stood at attention, their faces determined. History will remember this day, Cross continued. Let's make sure it remembers us. As the countdown began, the human fleet entered hyperspace, and with them, they carried the Empire's doom. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the distant glow of stars. Within this darkness, a fleet of human warships moved like ghosts. Their engines were silent, their hulls masked by advanced stealth technology. Their destination, the Imperial Data Core. The massive structure floated in deep space, a fortress of information, protected by some of the most advanced security systems in the galaxy. Every battle plan, every supply route, every classified Imperial secret was stored inside. Destroying it wouldn't just hurt the Empire. It would cripple it. Inside the lead human ship, General David Cross stood beside his team, eyes locked on the holographic display of the Imperial structure. "Is the team ready?" he asked. A soldier nodded. "They're already in position." Cross exhaled slowly. "Then it's time." A silent entry, a small human infiltration team, dressed in black combat suits, floated toward the Imperial station. Their ships had stopped a safe distance away, allowing them to approach undetected using individual thrusters. Lieutenant Mark Voss led the team. He was calm, focused. This was the most dangerous mission of his life, but he felt no fear. Fear was for the enemy. Using a stolen access code, provided by one of the Empire's own defectors, they slipped through the station's external shields. A small panel slid open, just enough for them to enter. No alarms, no detection. Step 1 was complete. Inside the beast, the inside of the Imperial Data Core was massive. Hallways lined with glowing blue lights, walls covered in shifting data streams. The team moved quickly, silent as shadows. Voss tapped his communicator. "We're in." Moving to the main system. From the human warship, Cross's voice came through. "You have 10 minutes before they notice something's wrong." Understood. The team advanced. Their target was the Central Processing Unit, a massive data core that controlled all Imperial communications and fleet coordination. If they could hack into it, they wouldn't just steal information. They could erase the Empire's control in one move. The first obstacle. As they neared the core, Voss suddenly raised his fist, signaling the team to stop. Guards. Imperial soldiers in silver armor patrolled the hall ahead, weapons at the ready. Voss activated a small device on his wrist. Instantly, a distortion field spread around his team, bending light, making them invisible. The guards walked past, unaware of the danger right in front of them. Voss waited a few seconds, then signaled his team forward. The Empire had no idea what was coming. Hacking the system. Reaching the core, the team set up a hacking device. Sparks flew as wires were connected, bypassing security firewalls. On the human command ship, a technician worked furiously. "We're in," she announced. "Downloading all fleet movements, security codes, and classified reports now." Cross clenched his fist. "Good, but we need more." The technician nodded. "I'm also planting a virus. When we activate it, every Imperial warship will lose communication for at least 24 hours. Cross's lips curled into a small smile. "That's all we need." The betrayal. Suddenly, an alarm blared. Voss's head snapped toward the door. "What happened?" "They found us," one of his teammates shouted. The station's security system had activated. Red lights flashed. Doors slammed shut. Then, a voice echoed through the station. "You should not have come here." Voss's blood ran cold. It was Admiral Velos. The doors burst open, and Imperial shock troopers stormed in, weapons raised. Voss and his team dived for cover as blaster fire filled the room. A fight for survival. The team fought back with precision. Silent, deadly shots took down multiple guards, but more kept coming. Then, Cross's voice crackled through the comms. "Voss, You need to get out now. We need 30 more seconds, Voss shouted. A grenade exploded near him, sending him crashing into a console. He groaned in pain but forced himself up. They had come too far to fail now. The final move. The hacker shouted. Upload complete. The virus is in the system. From space, the human fleet locked onto their signals and teleported them out just as more Imperial guards flooded the room. The last thing Voss saw before vanishing was Admiral Velas's enraged face. The Empire crumbles. Back on the human command ship, the crew erupted into cheers. The virus is spreading through the Empire's network. The technician shouted, "They're blind." Cross exhaled. The mission was a success. He turned to his officers. Prepare the fleet. The Empire is about to learn what happens when they ignore a warning. As Earth's forces moved into position, across the galaxy, Imperial warships shut down, planets declared independence, and rebellion exploded like wildfire. For the first time in history, the Empire was afraid. Deep in the heart of the Imperial capital, alarms blared. The Grand Council chamber, once a place of order and control, was now filled with panic. Generals, advisors, and high-ranking officials shouted over each other. Holographic displays showed fleet positions disappearing from the system, communications failing, and planets declaring independence. The virus the humans had planted was spreading fast. They have crippled our entire fleet, one general shouted. We cannot coordinate reinforcements. Our ships are stranded. The Emperor sat silently on his golden throne, his fingers gripping the armrests. His golden eyes burned with fury. Who did this? He asked, his voice dangerously calm. Admiral Velos stepped forward, his face pale. The humans. The room fell silent. The Emperor stood, his cloak flowing behind him. I warned them, he said. I told them Earth was a disease, and now it spreads. He turned to the Council. Deploy every warship we still control. Find their homeworld. Burn it to the ground. The final blow. But even as the Emperor gave his orders, his empire was already crumbling. Across the galaxy, rebel forces struck against weakened Imperial strongholds. Fleets that once obeyed the Empire without question refused to move. Governors abandoned their posts. The fear that had held the galaxy in the Empire's grip was gone. And in the middle of it all, Earth's fleet moved in for the final strike. On the bridge of his flagship, General David Cross watched the chaos unfold. Status, he asked. A communications officer grinned. Our virus has wiped their entire fleet database. They don't know where their ships are, where their armies are. They are blind. Cross nodded. And the Emperor. We intercepted his transmission. He's ordering an attack on Earth. Cross's eyes hardened. Then let's make sure he never gets the chance. The battle for the capital. Earth's fleet arrived at the Imperial capital in perfect formation. Dozens of sleek, black warships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons already locked onto the planet's defenses. The remaining Imperial warships scrambled to respond, but without coordination, they were helpless. Fire, Cross ordered. The first volley hit the planetary shield generators, shattering them in seconds. The second volley crippled the capital's main defense stations. Panic spread across the Imperial command. Inside the palace, the Emperor's rage turned into something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. The Emperor's last stand. The doors of the throne room burst open as human special forces stormed inside. Blasters fired. Imperial guards fell. The Emperor stood his ground. He was a ruler of 1,000 worlds. He would not fall like a coward. As the smoke cleared, General Cross stepped forward, his weapon aimed at the Emperor. It's over, Cross said. Your fleet is gone. Your empire is falling. Surrender. The Emperor laughed. It was a hollow, bitter sound. You think you have won? He asked. You do not understand. The galaxy needs an empire. Without us, there will be chaos. Cross shook his head. No, The galaxy needs freedom, and Earth made sure it finally has it. The Emperor glared at him. "You are making a mistake, human." Cross's expression did not change. "No, the mistake was yours." He raised his weapon. The end of an era. A single shot echoed through the throne room. The Emperor fell, and with him, the last symbol of imperial rule died. A new dawn. Across the galaxy, news of the Emperor's death spread. Rebel forces celebrated. Former imperial worlds declared independence. The great war that had lasted for centuries had ended in a single moment. And Earth did not claim victory. Earth did not take power. They simply sent a message to the galaxy. You are free. And then, like ghosts, Earth's fleet vanished back into the stars. The war was over. The Empire was no more. And humanity. They had done the impossible. They had warned the galaxy. And the galaxy had listened. The war was over. The mighty Galactic Empire, which had ruled for centuries, crushing countless civilizations under its rule, was now nothing more than a memory. Its fleets were scattered. Its worlds had declared independence. And its leaders, gone. All across the galaxy, people celebrated. Planets that had lived in fear for generations now rejoiced in their newfound freedom. Statues of the Emperor were torn down. Imperial banners were burned. The iron grip of the Empire had finally shattered. And at the heart of it all stood Earth. The small, unassuming planet that the Empire had once ignored had changed history. The aftermath of war. Inside a massive warship orbiting Earth, General David Cross stood before a holographic display of the galaxy. He saw messages flooding in from different planets. Some were asking for guidance. Others were requesting alliances. Earth had never wanted to rule. They had only wanted to be left alone. Now, the galaxy was looking to them for leadership. A young officer approached. "Sir, messages from the liberated planets are increasing. They want to know what happens next." Cross sighed. He had spent years fighting a war, but winning was only the beginning. "We give them a choice," he said. "Earth will not control them. We fought for their freedom. Now they must decide their own future." The officer nodded, and the remaining Imperial forces. Cross's expression hardened. "We track them. Some will try to rebuild the Empire. We make sure they never get that chance." A galaxy without chains. On the planet Vorlus 9, one of the Empire's former strongholds, a massive crowd had gathered. Thousands of beings, humans, aliens, and former Imperial citizens, stood together, waiting for an announcement. A rebel leader, Kara Mors, stepped onto a platform. She had once been a prisoner of the Empire. Now, she was a leader of the free galaxy. She spoke into a communicator, her voice reaching thousands. "The Empire is gone," she said. "For the first time in centuries, we are free." The crowd erupted into cheers. "But freedom is not given," she continued. "It must be protected. The Empire will not return, but there will always be those who seek power over others. We must be ready. We must stand together." Her speech was broadcast across the galaxy. And slowly, planet by planet, the people listened. The Emperor's shadow. But not everyone accepted defeat. Deep in the uncharted regions of space, the last remnants of the Empire gathered in secret. A few surviving admirals, warlords, and high-ranking officials met in a hidden base, their expressions grim. One of them, Grand Moff Relos, slammed his fist on the table. "This is not over," he shouted. "The Empire will rise again." Others, however, looked uncertain. "They destroyed our fleets," one said. "They killed the Emperor. The people will not follow us anymore." Relos narrowed his eyes. "Then we remind them why they feared us." A silence fell over the room. The Empire was broken, but not gone. And some still dreamed of revenge. The guardians of peace. Back on Earth, the skies were filled with ships, human warships, freighters from distant planets, and ambassadors from across the galaxy arrived, seeking counsel. Earth had become more than a planet. It had become a symbol. But Earth's leaders knew one thing: the fight for freedom never truly ended. As long as there were those who sought to control others, Earth would be ready. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as guardians. Cross stood before his soldiers, looking at the stars. "We did not seek war," he said. "We only wanted peace, but we learned that peace must be protected." His voice became firm. "We are not an empire. We are not masters of the galaxy. We are something greater. We are the ones who say, 'Never again.'" And with that, Earth's fleet vanished into the stars. The war had ended, but humanity's legend had just begun. The end.